So people joining us can join us at a little later, whoever wish to join us. So we'll begin now. Good morning, everyone. IIMB Alumni Office welcomes you all in this session of Author Talk series. Our esteemed panel of guests for today are Mr. S. Parthasarathy and Mr. Sai Prakash, both alumnus of the IIMB Institute. Mr. Partha is from the PGP 1994 batch and Mr. Sai is from the FPM 2007 batch. In this Author Talk series, we wish to highlight the recent books released by our authors, Battle Ready and by Mr. Sai Prakash, and How to Discover Customer Value by Mr. Parthasarathy. Both the books are non-fiction and business-oriented, providing readers with a better perspective on the subject. I am Priyanka, and it's a privilege to welcome you all today. Let me quickly introduce our author alums. Mr. S. Parthasarathy has over 25 years of industry experience. His first job was as an assistant manager at Vizag Steel Plant. He later joined ITC and worked there for 2 years. After ITC, Mr. Partha chose to become an entrepreneur, a full-time entrepreneur, and started his company called The Hub, a recruitment services firm that hired people across functions. He also developed India's first web-based apartment complex management solutions called One Solution. The idea was revolutionary for the time in 2008. Now we cannot seem to live without it. He has since been involved in various ventures and has acted as founder, director, and advisor. His later venture is called Lab in Motion, an online news magazine exclusively for entrepreneurs and startups. Mr. Partha currently heads alumni relations at the Institute. He is continuously working to strengthen alumni relations through engagement and effective communication. It wouldn't be wrong to say that the alumni relations office is one of the most respected among the B schools in India today. We welcome you again, sir. Our other panelist, Mr. Sai Prakash, his journey as a professional is very interesting. He started as a marketing executive at Crompton, later joining Siemens in Chennai. After graduating from IIMB, he became an assistant professor of strategy management at IIM Calcutta. He's currently serving as a faculty at IIM Udaipur in the business policy and strategy area. Mr. Sai is passionate about consulting and teaching. His 2 decades of experience across industry, management, consulting, and academics makes Mr. Sai no short of a powerhouse. He lives in Chennai to remain close to his family. His interest is in other fields like Veda, which he pursues in his free time. We welcome you again, sir. I request our audiences to hold their questions till the end of the session or type in the chat section so that we can address them later. I welcome you all again to the session. I'll begin the session by asking Mr. Partha about his latest book. Can you please tell us about your latest book and what's it about?
At the outset, Priyanka, thank you for the generous introduction. I'd also like to congratulate Sai on his book. It's a wonderful book. I have my copy. I received it a week back. And it provides very interesting insights and focuses on the external factors. That is something that most people don't really look at. So regarding my book, the book is around, a framework that allows a marketer or an entrepreneur to follow a very structured process in trying to discover what the customer truly wants. And during my various interactions with entrepreneurs, marketers, even academics, what I have realized is most of them didn't have a very structured process in mind while approaching this very important topic. It was very intuitive, heuristic based. You have a focus groups, but you really don't know what you need to be focusing on. And also based on my own experience of 2 decades, I realized this is one area which is quite challenging for people. And there are some tools available. You have the value proposition design, which is a subset of the business model canvas. And design thinking is also there. The first part of design thinking, which we often refer to as empathize. essentially, but there is no structured process. So that got me thinking, and that's been the genesis of the idea of the book. It addresses two basic questions: where does customer value reside, and how to find it? And I have introduced a framework, a simple, I'd like to believe a simple framework called the customer action cycle, just commonsensical kind of a thing. And it ends in a tool, which a practitioner's tool called the value discovery canvas. Again, the word canvas being something that people relate to. And I'm also in the process of developing an online tool where people can develop their own canvases. I'm hoping it should be ready in a month's time. So that is a very high level overview of the book and its content.
Okay. Thank you for letting us know. I have a similar question for Mr. Sai. Sai, what battle ready? A power packed title for a book. What is your book about?
I had to fight a lot with the publisher to get this title accepted. They were saying it's very negative. I said battle means negative, but battle ready is positive, so don't worry. People will like it. I think Partha introduced my book as well. So thanks for having me in this webinar. Just like Partha was saying, from his experience, he saw certain things not very clearly articulated. Something very similar has happened in my case as well. If we look at managers and how they decide what to do, how to compete in their businesses, so usually there is this strategy which guides what we want to do. And if you are the head of the business, you decide what you want to do. If you are part of a business, then it sort of comes from somewhere, whatever it is. And end of the day, winning in competition is about doing better than others, your rivals and other players and things like that. A lot of times, managers don't pay much attention to what is out there. They just focused on my company strategy, my organization, my team, my leadership, my culture. It's all like, and there are a lot of studies which show that, focus is excessively on inside the organization. And in the rare occasions when people are forced to look at outside, like say, for example, business planning, every year people do that. It's template driven. So there is a template where you have to fill up who are your main competitors, what is your market share. And I've always seen, if I can talk to three people who are competing, three companies who are competing in an industry, and if I add up their market share, it will definitely be more than 100%. Okay, so people have very sort of, it's not that they don't want to. They understand that it's probably quite useful. It is just that, either they believe it's not possible to do. It's not possible to understand what my rival is going to do. Second, it's not, even if I am able to put the effort and do it, I'm not going to get the ROI for that. So these two reasons are why people don't pay much attention to what is happening out there. And simple test for me in my consulting out there, whenever we start a strategy project, in a water cooler conversation, coffee table conversation, I ask, when was the last time you visited your competitor's customer? Usually answer is don't know. How many people do that systematically? Go talk to competitor's customer, find out why this customer is going to the rival and not to me. Simple thing. So people don't do that. So all this is based on these assumptions that, looking outside is actually not going to be either very productive or very feasible or useful. I want to break those beliefs. That is the sum and substance of this book actually. So look outside, be ready, and therefore I ask these two questions. Are you battle ready? Can you win the battle today? Can you win the battle for profits today? Can you stay battle ready? Can you change? Can you adapt to win the battle for profits in future? Both. That's essentially the long and short of this battle ready.
Okay, we're talking about the, what was the idea behind the book? But was there a particular instance, or was there a particular happening, or what was the idea behind writing about this subject?
totally random. I mean, see, first of all, in competition, the need to pay attention to outside is well known, but just people don't do it. It is like one of those, good to have, but people don't do it. And as a manager responsible for a profit center when I was working in Siemens, later as a consultant with Arthur D. Little when I was dealing with customers' strategy problems, competitive strategy problems, as an academic, as a facilitator of learning, teaching competitor analysis to participants in the program. Everywhere, this idea, what is there in the book, has been like, in the subtext. So I don't think this is triggered by any single, episode or anything like that.
Okay.
It's been there. It's something that is that has been there for quite a long time, and therefore it is cooked, and then at some point in time it comes out, right?
Okay. And what about you, Mr. Partha? Was there a particular instance that triggered the idea for your book?
This is actually my second book, and the second book is in a way an extension of my first book.
Okay.
The first book is focused on why entrepreneurs do what they do. And the second book, in a way, you can look at why do customers buy and how do they make those decisions and what is the value that they see in whatever you have to offer. But this is from a customer's perspective.
Okay.
So both of them actually revolve around the idea of the needs-based approach, needs and value-based approach. It's more from motivational theory.
Okay.
And the genesis of all this actually has to go to my wife, because she's a counselor. She's focused on parents and children. And I noticed that she was very effectively using the idea of needs in the therapeutic domain. Right? And I found that extremely potent and very effective. And when I looked at my own B school, our studies, we had the OB, HR, etc. Even in marketing, when I look back, I don't recall being able to remember these ideas being articulated very clearly, or maybe I was a very poor student. I didn't listen carefully. but late awakening, then I thought, let me dig into this a bit deeper. And the second book is basically some kind of an evolution of my first book, and that's the background.
Okay. So, any personal learnings or knowledge that your personal experience that have been part of your book right now?
Personal experiences, yeah, somewhere, because for 2 decades I've been on my own. I would not be able to do this one-to-one kind of correspondence, but there are obviously a lot of things that are the product of my own experiences of the past. And in terms of when writing the book, it has been fairly interesting. I'm not an academic. So I'm not an academic. I'm not even a practicing marketing professional. I haven't been in that particular function. And for me to write something on this topic essentially gives you goosebumps. You're opening yourself for criticism and evaluation, etc. And you're not very sure about yourself, but then you realize that, once you dig into your entrepreneurial experience of 2 decades, then you realize that is more than sufficient for you to, ultimately a perspective. These are points of view. And you're looking for validation as much as you're looking for intrinsic motivation to get you started and working on this thing. But you're also looking at validation in terms of what you have to share. And in my second book is slightly more focused, because it focuses on a specific tool, because that is something that I realize that practitioners find it very useful. They want a takeaway at the end of the reading a book. It's not just, I enjoyed the book, and then after that, what? Right? So this time I got some good validations and endorsements from leading academicians across the world, and also from practicing professionals. I had a good endorsement from a marketing professor from the Harvard Business School, so who took a lot of interest in what I had to write. And later I realized he himself has written a book on value. So that gave me that kind of a trigger to get me moving and completing the book. So that's been something that I can think of right now in terms of an experience of writing this book.
Okay, I doubt that you were not a good student during IIM days. It's difficult to believe, and I think a person observing from a distance sometimes has much more value to offer than somebody in action. So I think there are great takings from your book. I believe in its validity completely.
Thanks.
Similar question.
That's very reassuring.
Mr. Sai, similar question to you. What kind of, personal experiences and what, your personal experience were involved in the book?
The whole thing is my personal experience. See, okay, let me tell you, why I say that. Let me tell you why I say that. See, as a practicing manager, when I was in Siemens, before that, when I was in Crompton Graves, for some time, you are learning and then, it's challenging and things like that. But then beyond a point, you end up doing the same things again and again. And then, you try to do things differently, which will help you improve. But there are limits to what you can do because of organizational constraints, correct? And so there were a lot of these questions in my mind when I left full-time corporate career and moved to academics. That's after 10, 11 years working in the industry, I joined FPM, right? So that is personal experience in terms of, some gaps, how people do things. Then starting FPM, of course, first year was with the PGP. So therefore that was a fun ride. Second year onwards, there's a deluge of academic literature that we are expected to digest and understand and then debate and things like that. So Professor Deepak Sinha will give 8 articles to read and summarize the next day. And then Professor Ganesh Babu will come along and he will give his 6. And each article is like, something like 20, 30 pages long. Densely written, a lot of statistics, figures. You don't understand half of it. You don't understand most of it, of course. But then they help understand. That is the great part of these so-called doctoral seminars and things like that. So what happened is, and learning under somebody like Professor Deepak Sinha, I had the opportunity to get exposed to a very wide range of literature.
Okay.
And he is someone who has, been exposed to literature spanning from economics to sociology to, the entire spectrum of all the mother disciplines from which management comes out. So that was good in the sense. So I got that opportunity to understand that, what people have already thought about, and that's very important. Then as a management consultant, when I was working with Orthodox, Southeast Asia, Middle East, West Asia, all these places, again, looking at managers and seeing the kind of problems that they are grappling with, something that seems obvious to you find, it is actually not so obvious to them. Something you think is like, come on, why are you doing this? But they have their reasons for why they are doing something or not doing something, all these things. And then later, same way, when you get into teaching, when I got into teaching, again, the same story in terms of, understanding how people approach this. So the underlying theme is, how businesses compete to win. Okay, that is there. But these varied experiences across these multiple domains that I had the fortunate opportunity to pass through provided different perspectives. So end of the day, if I really look at the book and then I ask myself, okay, what personal experience? It's basically the sum total of whatever starting from whenever to now. That is there.
Okay.
But then what I have, there is one aspect of my personal experience that has also helped me shape how I presented my thoughts.
Okay.
I think that is very important. See, thinking like a manager, thinking like a consultant, thinking like an academic, wearing these different hats, how does a particular idea resonate with a particular audience?
Okay.
So it's not like, if I look at what I ended up writing in the book, it's basically a khichdi of concepts. I've stood on the shoulders of giants. There is a lot of research literature that I've used in this book. So it's a khichdi of research findings. It's a khichdi of conceptual frameworks, theories that people have already proposed and tested and all that. And then I have done my tweaks on those theories. Then what I have done is I have brought these examples, these real life examples, which will help people relate to these concepts, which demonstrates how to use them, and then some simple frameworks, some tables, which will help them. How can I use this in my work tomorrow?
Okay.
So at one level, it is a kind of articulates ideas. I'm not saying 100% of the ideas are new. Maybe 15-25% of the ideas are new. 80% is already available. It's just that I have structured it in a certain way. So one is the ideas and concepts, exposing people to that particular configuration of ideas and concepts. That is one. Second is examples which will help them anchor those concepts in their mind. And third, some kind of frameworks with which they can actually go and take and apply it. So I have asked myself, okay, if I am a manager, how will I view this? If I am a consultant, how will I view this? If I am a student, how will I view this? And that has helped me. So this is why I said it's nothing but my personal experience, nothing more, nothing less.
Okay. So like we were talking about, different perspectives of different people. Now, who do you think this book will, what kind of readers will benefit most out of this book?
Anyone who is responsible for business.
Okay.
So it could be a relationship manager in one of the private banks. There was a Ken article just a couple of days ago which talks about how the relationship managers are the new age insurance agents. They are selling bank assurance and they have hard targets and things like that, right? So it could be an RM in one of the private sector banks who are chasing targets. It could be the CEO of a large corporation. It could be the promoter of a startup. It could be anybody who wants to compete to win in business. So primarily focused on for-profit. I don't look at not-for-profit. I don't look at other aspects of life, personal life, succeeding in personal life, nothing like that. So it's not a self-help or whatever. It is purely focused on for-profit businesses, and anyone who is responsible for making that business succeed in the competitive arena, they will find it useful, and they can definitely find concepts, ideas, frameworks, tools that they can apply in their day-to-day job.
Okay. And Mr. Partha, what about your book? Is it only for entrepreneurs, or is it who will benefit out of this book?
Anyone who wants to think differently, entrepreneurs being a subset of that. So early stage entrepreneurs, wannabe entrepreneurs, people from mature businesses, people who are looking there at that small tweak that can change perception of value for a customer. So which would basically mean whether it's incremental innovation, disruptive innovation, or whatever you want to call it, anyone who's looking for those small ideas that can enhance the perception of value for a customer, I think it will benefit from the book. B school students, interestingly, even researchers can actually benefit from the book. They can pick up some thread and start researching on it. And because I haven't provided too much of data, but I plugged in a lot of examples. But someone wants to take a particular thread and dig deeper, it allows you to do that.
Okay. So, Mr. Partha, any unique offering of the book, any key takeaways that you would like to share with us?
What I'd like to believe is the whole book is about a framework, so and a tool. So when you're introducing a framework, I try to introduce a framework based on the way I look at something, pretty commonsensical. I'd like to believe it's pretty simple to understand. And in the process, you also introduce words that will shift your attention to some other part of your experience. I introduce some words called value nodes, value catalysts, value criteria, the value discovery pyramid, and the whole process and the canvas.
Okay.
And what I'd like to believe is the unit of analysis for discovering value resides in customer action. At a brass tacks level, behavior is an aggregator of actions. Okay. So if you want to get insights into what customers truly want, you need to observe customer actions. What the book does is it essentially chunks down any customer action which is agnostic of domains or products or services, and tries to look at, are there standard constituents of any customer action, and can I drill down deeper to understand where value resides. And, as an anecdotal reference, if someone asks you, where can I find gold? You will tell them, go to Kolar gold mines. It's supposed to be a place where you get gold. And someone reaches by station and he says, I have reached Kolar. Where exactly do I go? And what are the tools that I have to dig for gold? So similarly, intuitively, any marketer knows certain things, but how do you connect those dots? There are multiple dots that you can connect. The bigger picture of the interplay between various elements is something that I've tried to attempted to bring together, that will help marketers, entrepreneurs, whoever, to check out where value actually resides for the customer. And the value discovery process is the very first process for any business. Okay. It's like Sai mentioned earlier, it's an iterative loop. So you discover value, then you create value, you deliver, you sustain, and then you capture, which is the economics and the cost structures, revenues, etc. The book is totally focused on the first stage, which is I'd like to believe, the ABCD of business. And that is something you can easily get wrong, get it wrong. And sometimes you're just sitting and assuming a lot of things, and it's a loop. You need to get back, and because value is a dynamic concept, it keeps changing. Okay. What I value today at my age is very different from what I valued when I was 30. Right. Value is a dynamic idea. It keeps changing. So when companies and mature businesses have to keep this at the back of their mind and have that antennas up all the time. So in terms of uniqueness, as I said, it ends with a canvas in terms of a tool, and I'm also working on an online tool. Hopefully it should be ready in a month's time.
Okay. So basically it prepares you, if it's an aspiring entrepreneur, they can reevaluate how they're looking at things. And somebody who's already in the business and they think probably things are not going right, they can always go back and fix what probably needs to be fixed.
Yeah, and how do I create differentiated and superior value for the customer?
Sure.
And that needs to first, another quick referral point is this idea of CVP, customer value proposition. That's something that's thrown around all the time. And it's usually in the context of fundraising. How do I pitch to an investor, and what is the value, or to a B2B customer where I'm proposing a value and I'm pitching for business. But the presupposition, the assumption there is you already know what you have to pitch. Now you question that. So how do you know what you need to pitch? How do you know the customer values something? Is there a structured process that you have adopted to finding what the customer values? Is there something that is diffusible across an organization? Is there something that is shareable? How do you create? I call it the value storming exercise.
Okay.
How do you actually break down the citadels of value, so to speak, right? And discover what is right, what is deep inside, what resides there. And how do you, through a value storming exercise, even in a group, the whole idea is how do you promote the culture of innovation, creativity, and collaboration through value storming?
Okay. Right. Thank you. So, Mr. Sai, let's talk about, the key takeaways from your book and the unique offerings of, the book that Battle Ready is.
Yes. I think I can think of this at two levels. At the first level, it is about the kind of underpinnings of the ideas articulated in the book. So I think for decades we have, managers have thought in terms of steady state, equilibrium, end state, end goal, all these kind of things. What will happen after that? Stasis, things will freeze when you reach equilibrium, when you reach steady state. What will happen after that? Now, if we look at the genesis of this idea, and the whole planning comes from that. The planning is a belief that if I want to achieve something in 5 years, I have to do a set of things and eventually I'll get there. After that, so what? Okay. So if we look at why this idea itself has taken so strong a root in our minds, we can thank neoclassical economics. The whole concept of equilibrium. Things are somehow it has to reach a steady state. And then in India, we have overload of engineers. So second law of thermodynamics, things have to come to steady state. So these ideas have somehow told us that there is something called a steady state where we need to reach some kind of utopia, some kind of nirvana. But nothing like that exists in business. In business, everything evolves. Everything is in movement. Okay, and things keep on moving. Now the thing is, most of the books written for managers, coming from how do you manage your business, how do you compete, and things like that, implicitly try to sort of give this view that you are moving towards a kind of a equilibrium, and you should. So basically, it's kind of judgment day kind of thing. You should get to the good side of the crowd when you get there. But there is nothing like that. Things are moving. Okay, it's a cycle. It keeps on moving. Companies are born. Companies compete. Companies rise. Then some other companies are born. They will challenge these biggies. They will die, and it's a cycle. So that evolutionary aspect is something that is actually not very clearly brought out. And I think I would like to believe that this book does a little bit of that in terms of explaining how businesses go over a period of time and things like that. So that's something that I have not seen. Whatever is written, whatever I have read is all like having this implicit assumption of steady state at the bottom. That's one. Second, see, a lot of times when I find great businesses failing, behind that is a manager who wakes up, a CEO who wakes up thinking today is going to be like yesterday, and today is going to be like the day before, and therefore if I continue to do what I do, all is well. Precisely, that is a problem. Okay, so managers need to have conversations about what is changing.
Okay, sure.
That conversation doesn't happen enough. So in a way, the ideas in this book, the frameworks in this book will challenge some of those views, saying that do the same of what you're doing and which helped you succeed in the past and you will continue to remain successful. No, we are breaking that. But more importantly, there is an online tool, and I was fortunate that I could get the online tool up and running just a few days before the book got released. This online tool, it's not a scientific measure of how battle ready your business is. 10 questions, 5 options, you choose one of the options for each of those statements. It's basically a statement completion exercise. You do that, you get a score. Score tells you where you are. Are you super battle ready? Are you okay, but future is dicey? Or are you in deep trouble? It gives you that kind of ballpark. Now, the precision of the result is not what is important. What is important is, I believe, the tool will help trigger discussions within organizations.
Okay.
So let us say I am the CEO of a business and I have a group of peers with whom I am running this business. The C-suite with whom I am running this business. I do this tool and I am getting a score of 656 out of 100, which means I am okay for today, but my future is very dicey. What I can do next is I can ask my CXOs to take the tool and tell me what, and then we can sit and discuss what score we got. I am 99.99% sure there won't be any convergence in that number. And then they start a debate on why it is low for somebody, why it is high for somebody else. And that is when, they will discover where they have problems. One. Second, the CEO can say, come, let us do it as a team. The head of the business can say, let us do it as a team. So beam the tool on the screen and then let us decide on one response. Let us come to a consensus on one response for this statement. The debate already starts there. Somebody will say first one, somebody will say fifth one, somebody will say third one, and then why.
Okay.
Debate starts. So purpose is to trigger debates within organizations about their battle readiness. Are we battle ready? Are we going to stay battle ready? That's one. Second, as a business head, I can ask one of my colleagues or I can ask even a customer, role play my competitor and do this tool and let me see how my competitor is going to look like. And suddenly I get insights. My customer will give a rating which I wouldn't have thought of. And then I ask the customer, why do you think like this? And then they will start giving instances why they think so, and this. And that is what is going to help me take these ideas forward. See, end of the day, I believe management education, what we do in programs, books, unless they can help managers do things differently, it's of not much value.
Okay.
So my own view and my own belief is that somewhere maybe 100 people read the book and 2 people are able to change the behavior. I'm very happy. That's enough. I've met my goal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So what is your favorite chapter in your book and why?
My favorite chapter is the last chapter.
Okay. And why?
Why? Of course, there are 2 ways to answer this question. Okay. One way to answer the question is probably that is at the crux of the whole thing.
Okay.
Okay. That's see, end of the day, you can fix everything, but if you don't fix that, and that chapter is called battle ready mindset.
Okay.
Getting battle ready. How do you get? So it's all in the minds of the managers. So that's so to me, it's probably not fully developed. It's a very short chapter, and therefore the second, if this book finds enough traction, then I could possibly look at a follow-up.
Okay.
Expanding on that.
Okay. No, we are hoping to have a second book in a couple of years.
Yeah, following the footsteps of Partha.
Partha, what about you? What is your favorite chapter in the book and why?
All the chapters, Priyanka. No, jokes apart. See, some of the chapters are quite, when I wrote them, I found them very nice, and I felt good writing these chapters. The initial part is because this is something new. It has not been, it's a new introduction of a new framework. But that in itself was pretty interesting. I got a lot of kick out of that. And there's some ideas which again specifically was pretty interesting to me. For example, the role of context in determining customer value, and how I extended the idea of usually when you talk about context, you look at external context, So I tried to expand that idea to even bring in internal context. What are the boundaries within which you actually work? So there are mental constructs that you have, which can also be a context that determines how you actually work on something. So that was an interesting, and also giving certain, linking it to various motivational theories, whether it's learned behavior or cognitive psychology or evolutionary psychology that is more to do with brain design and stuff like that. So that was pretty interesting in terms of when I was writing it, I found it pretty interesting. And like Sai mentioned, the last chapter obviously is, because it concludes with the canvas and with the tool, that's the practitioner's perspective. So stitching the whole thing to the rest of the book is all stitching the whole thing together, providing evidence to whatever I was trying to say, so that it is easy to relate to. But at the same time, just for the reader to understand that these are all interconnected. You tinker around with one particular component or constituent of the cycle, and it will impact everything else. But yes, all the chapters were interesting to write. Each of them had its own unique perspective.
I'm sure.
So, yeah.
See, we have had, a lot of the alumni members writing on various subjects, but non-fiction writing on, as a subject matter expert. Why choose non-fiction over fiction, and how is it different from writing fiction? Probably.
See, fiction requires a lot of creativity, quite honestly. I mean, you need to build characters, stories. The way I look at it is, that's something where there's a lot of style that goes into it. Style, the language, how you present yourself. Business books, for example, from a language perspective, it's very different from the way a fiction is written. Fiction, again, you need to build it. It's not easy writing fiction, and both of them are pretty different genres. Non-fiction is more to do with subject matter expertise, or if you have something to say in a particular subject, let it be self-help, let it be Bhagavad Gita, let it be anything. You have a point of view which you wish to share with the world, and based on your own insights, etc., in a particular subject, you go ahead and you write something. For me, fiction personally, though I have written long time back a few things here and there, but really fiction at this point in time, I have not really thought too much about it. And let me tell you, fiction is pretty hard stuff, because anyone and everyone thinks that he is wonderful at writing fiction. But somehow the publisher, the copywriter might think otherwise, right? So I think both of them are fairly different genres, and the thinking also is fairly distinctively different.
Okay. And what about you, Sai? Did you always want to write, or how did you get into writing non-fiction?
You're asking me?
Yes, yes.
Oh, I was trained for that. See, the whole doctoral dissertation is so that you write non-fiction. I mean, if what you write at the end of it is going to be fiction, then there is a problem. Correct. So no, I'm trained. I'm trained to write, and of course, how we write for academic journals, how we write for practitioner-focused journals, and how we write. All these will be there will be some stylistic differences, but they're all part of the same family. So I would say, yeah, I've been trained into writing non-fiction, and therefore I write it. And I think the most important thing is what Partha said. See, you have a point of view which you believe is going to be valuable for others, and therefore you want to write about it. And if you are also fortunate to find somebody who is willing to publish it, and that's when you end up being an author of non-fiction. Fiction is something totally different. I read a lot of fiction, but that's good. I'm very happy with that.
Okay. Now let's talk about the title of your book. Let's talk about the coming about of the book actually. What went into designing the cover of your book? How did you come up with the title?
Totally chaotic. See, title, of course, the working title was Winning the Competition Game. Okay, that sounded more like some drab, dull article in an academic journal. I agree. So then the publisher suggested a title which, being a fan of Tolkien, I thought it was a travesty. They said Lord of the Winds. So I said, no way. I'm not going to have that title on a book which has my name. So then I kept thinking, and this whole battle readiness as a concept, battle readiness as a capability that organizations possess, because all constructs that we have about organizational capability to strategize does not, most of them do not explicitly factor in the dynamics of competition. But battle readiness as a capability will factor in that. So this has been playing in my mind for a while. Okay. So I suggested this title, and then there were fireworks. But fortunately, I think the publisher was kind enough to agree. Cover design was very simple. I mean, I wanted it to be simple. They suggested a font for the title, and then my daughter picked the dark maroon, and that's it. Nothing. Okay. Very simple.
We kept it simple, okay. And what about you, Mr. Partha?
Yeah, for me, my first book didn't have a problem with the title. It just sailed through. No one had any objection. The second one, my suggestion was to keep it simple and direct. I said, how to discover customer value, simple. And my publisher didn't agree. He said value is a very technical term. And I published through Rupa. The genre of books, more self-help and fiction, etc. They said, look, it needs to appeal to a wider audience. You can't have value and all that. Let's think through. And we iterated through almost 20 different titles. I was just not convinced. Okay, and after the whole exercise, somehow he realized my point of view, and he said, no, I think what you're saying is right. So let's go with something direct. The others just didn't resonate. And both the tagline and also the title. With respect to cover design, they gave me a couple of designs which I was just not happy about. I think the designer changed in that in the publisher.
Okay.
See, last time it was pretty nice, so this
Mm.
time it was not really good. And what I did was I did my own homework, and I shared some designs with the thing. I also looked at the theme, how it needs to look and feel, because the idea of discovery, I wanted that to play up on the cover. So that I did some research, I did some homework, and the cover of my book is basically has been suggested by me in terms of the design, but the other lettering and all copy, etc., they've done it.
Mm.
So that's the story behind the cover design and the title.
Okay. I guess we have about just 10 minutes for the session in the session left. We'll open the Q&A so that we can have.
Yeah, I think that's better. That's better.
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
So if anybody wishes to ask something.
And so Priyanka, I think Mr. Chand has already
Yes,
asked a question. I think very valid.
Yeah.
So maybe we could just quickly, take a few minutes in terms of trying to go through, because this is non-fiction, and see whether we can, look at what we have done through some examples. So let me quickly take 2-3 use cases, and just to explain how certain things can impact, say in my context, kind of perception of customer value. There are multiple what I refer to as value nodes in my framework. The role of context, for example, and how they determine customer value. Just an kind of anecdotal reference, as the idea of rain. When rain occurs in a place like Rajasthan, it's something that people would love to have rain in a town in Rajasthan. If you have a rain in a flooded area where it's constantly raining in Northeast or in Kerala, it's nuisance value. The rain in itself is not good or bad, but the context in which rain occurs, enhances or changes the perception of value and its meaning for someone. The same idea applies in businesses too. Let me give you a simple example. So when Maggi noodles was introduced in India, most of us are familiar. It was supposed to be a meal substitute for meal, which means lunch and dinner. It was subsequently they did market research, and they realized that let's introduce it as a snack item. Now the same product in a totally different context was perceived as being of superior value to the customer. The same product. So it's like, when we are on a Zoom call, I have a background, right? I change the background with an IIMB logo or something else. It changes the perception of the person out here. The meaning and perception can change with the same product or service, but in a different context can be totally different. Let's take an example of Gunj. Gunj, all of us know about used clothes. That's something that may not be of great value to me. I may dispose of my old clothes, but someone who can't afford used clothes, it's of great value to them. The same product for in a different context can be of great value to someone else. This is there, and you just look around, you'll find it in day-to-day life, whether it's business or personal life. If you have children who are probably not doing extremely well, at least according to parents, who are not doing extremely well in studies or in academics, etc., and the parents are disappointed, you go to a home where you have autistic children, then you realize what the meaning is, and to have just children who are healthy and mentally fine. Just changing the context in which something occurs can change the meaning and perception of value. So that is the role of context. Similarly, you can look at so many other things. The role of impact. When customers buy products or services, it's not only about what it does to me. The outcome is not just customer centric. It is also in terms of what is the impact and what is the contribution that I am making to something other than me, to my family, to my society, to organizations, to the environment, etc. And that can be of great value to a customer. I'll give you a simple example and then stop here. Tom shoes, many of us know about Tom shoes. This guy went to Argentina and they started making shoes for children. They noticed that a lot of children don't have shoes when going to school. He went back and he came up with this very one-for-one business model. You buy a shoe for me, I will donate a shoe for a child in a developing country. And they have shipped around 8 million pairs of shoes. He used the same business model for eye care, eyesight, right, for lens wear. So for every eyewear that you buy from him, he will restore the eyesight of someone in some part of the world. And they've impacted 4.5 lakh people. And obviously his products are priced high, but people don't mind paying for these products because of the impact it makes to others. It's the need to contribute for a larger cause that can be of great value to a customer. So there are multiple, I just take an impact. Impact is what I refer to as value node and context. So each of these nodes, supplier, actions, tools, impact, outcome, context, these are all what I call the value nodes. And each one of them can contribute to customer perception or customer value very differently.
Okay.
So I'll stop here.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Sai, would you like to answer that question? Mr.
Yes,
Chan,
yes. I can provide. Yeah, I can talk about that. See, okay. Let me be quite brief in this. See, when I ask this question, are you battle ready for the future? That's the kind of thing that we try to understand. I'll give an example. I earlier said that this manager who wakes up, the CEO who wakes up in the morning thinking today is going to be the same as yesterday. Yesterday is going to be the same as day before, and so on and so forth. They are not battle ready. I'll give you an example. One particular day, I don't remember the date, but one particular day, there was an announcement that a company called Infotel Broadband got acquired by Reliance Industries. And that happened on one particular day. Okay. Now, the implication of this should dawn on people in the mobile telecom industry immediately. Okay. Now, let us look at how two incumbents behaved in response to that. One is Airtel. So in the next few months to a couple of years, Airtel went on a spree of acquiring 4G licenses throughout the from various players, HFCL, Qualcomm. Earlier they had only 4 licenses, but then in a couple of years they had pan-India license. Okay, so they had shifted their focus on even capex. So moving from relying on copper for last mile for their broadband, they moved to fiber, and then they started investing in fiber last mile and all that kind of investments. So they looked at what happened. They tried to understand what is the implication of that for my business, and they understood these guys are going to come and then help us. So we need to be ready for that battle, and therefore they did things which will help them stand a chance of winning that battle with Reliance eventually when Jio launched. Of course, they won't know exactly how it is going to be, but they can actually predict it to a very good extent. Now let us look at the other incumbent, the number 2 in the market, Vodafone. Vodafone CEO back in 2012 said, we don't see India as a 4G market. Why? It's valid statement. 95% of Indian subscribers, mobile subscribers, used prepaid, and more than 70% had feature phones, which means 2G handset. Okay, so where is 4G? 4G is not going to come in this market, they concluded. Even in 2016, both the India CEO and global CEO of Vodafone said, we don't see India will eventually go to 4G, but we will see that we see that happening over several years, not immediately. Okay. Now, so during those interim years, they were actually spending money and their managerial attention and focus on integrating all the billing systems across 25 circles. Okay. All the while, Mr. Mukesh Ambani and team were cooking on the other side a strategy to make calls too cheap to meter. So you don't even have to bill your customers anymore because calls are free. And these guys are spending money on integrating billing systems. How battle ready were they? So the thing is, and if you see, what was the big difference between how Airtel interpreted that piece of information and Vodafone? Vodafone said or assumed that nothing is going to change. In India, if 70% plus handsets are feature phones, it will continue to be so. Airtel probably thought differently. They said, okay, this is Reliance, and these guys can do. They can move mountains. Sure enough, Jio came with a feature phone which was 4G capable and gave it away free. Correct. So always, every day there is something or the other happening. It may not immediately impact your business tomorrow, but it will have. It's like the butterfly. It's like the butterfly fluttering its wings somewhere in Japan, and then there is a somewhere in the East Coast, and then there is a tsunami in Japan. Something like that. Correct. But how do managers handle that? If it is going to be like simple, very simple. I see this news item that Infotel Broadband has been acquired by Reliance Industries. I am the CEO of a telecom business. Coffee. I am having coffee with my head of marketing. I am having coffee with my head of commercial. I am having coffee with my head of network. Over the next few days, I'll meet them. Hey, did you see that news? What do you think about it? Just ask and then get people to think about it if they are already not talking about it. In the next C-suite meeting, add an agenda item. Last 10 minutes, we want to discuss about this. So did anybody think about how this is going to affect our business? Nobody has thought about it. So who wants to put up their hand? Let us have a chat about this maybe next month. Think about it, and then we can figure out. Maybe the head of strategy already did some homework and he or she has some points of view. Discuss that, and then slowly you build this perspective over a period of time. So battle readiness is not hiring a consultant and then getting it done in a high pressure 8-week or a 4-week period. No, battle readiness is a state of mind. And that is why I said I like the last chapter a lot, because it's about the mindset. It's about how you approach your business. Okay. So I think B2B, B2C, I think the differences are not very different. It's all it's all in the specifics. So hopefully, Mr. Chand, this sort of provides a kind of perspective to what you were asking.
Okay. Mr. Rajesh has a question. I think he can ask him himself. I've unmuted you. Mr. Rajesh?
Okay. Thanks. Sai, this question is basically, I actually copied to you too.
Okay.
And it's basically, part of it you actually answered through your example of Airtel and, Reliance and whatever tamasha went off in the telecom industry.
Yeah.
Then, sometimes, when you say battle,
there is no
opposition. There is no opposition.
Okay.
Now sometimes there is no opposition, right? Yeah, especially in your case, there's no opposition. At that point of time, there was no opposition. But you create some opposition by imagining certain kind of trajectories where this kind of some kind of a move can take place. Like some game is going to be played, and then this fellow has made a particular move. And this move, after say 5-7 moves, will result in this kind of situation wherein that person becomes an opponent to me, and that is the opponent I have to actually fight. And today I'm a battle ready. Okay, so some of these are like you are fighting, you are thinking about it in the future. But there are other situations wherein the battle is internal. You have to fight within yourself to get to that mindset which you talked about. So can you kind of throw some light on how your frameworks help us achieve that kind of readiness in both situations, both dealing with internal aspects wherein I need to change my mindset, and secondly the external aspect when I have to look into the future. And
very, very valid. See, unless internally you are reviving your organization, refreshing your organization, continuously, you will not be battle ready. So what you say is perfectly valid. Only thing is that this book focuses on getting battle ready for external opponents. And when I say external,
theme for the next book.
Yeah. It's already there. That is the last chapter. No. So it's not just about external opponents. As you said, it's also about competing for the future. It's about, competing with yourself who is refusing to change. So you need to change to be ready for the future. If you are not, then you are fighting yourself. The biggest opponent is you. Okay, so that is there. But getting ready as an organization internally, and that's what you meant. And I think that is, I very briefly touched upon that in the last chapter because, I felt that's a very important point to bring up. But that will definitely deserve a book length treatment in itself. So we don't cover that. And then, yes, you are right. Let us see. Yeah. Does that answer your question, Rajesh?
Yeah, more or less. Others will be asked on your copy.
I think Arun has a question. Blue ocean strategy and this are diametrically opposite.
Mr. Arun, you can ask the question yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you got the question, right, Prakash? I think you can answer
Yes,
it.
absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
go ahead.
See, I think let us understand where blue ocean strategy and this battle readiness as a concept, where they differ. See, blue ocean strategy comes from the perspective that there is no point in going to battle if you are also going to be an also ran.
Yes.
So therefore, you need to find a space in the competitive landscape where you have limited opposition, you have limited challenges, both in terms of value creation and value appropriation, and therefore you play in that niche. So they talk about Cirque du Soleil, they talk about so many examples where they say you identify that space where you can actually excel and nobody else will be able to excel as well as you. And that is what they, is that correct?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean,
okay. Excellent.
Yeah. So the only philosophy behind what it was, I mean, this entire concept of strategy and all this came in from the military examples, and which may not be true during this where we are competing right now. I mean, in the space of industry, which is not correct. And your book actually says battle ready, which is totally opposite to what this philosophy stands by. It could be because of my bias what I'm reading, but the kind of philosophies that
let me try and explain sure. Where this concept differs from blue ocean strategy and where the two are quite distinct. See, first of all, when I say battle ready, I am not referring to a military battle.
Okay.
I am referring to a competitive battle. Now, you ask yourself, when you are competing with rivals, are you in a battle or not? You are not even in a battle with your competitors. You are also in a battle with your customers. You are also in a battle with your suppliers, with your partners, complementers for appropriating value. You know, you are all together cooking the pie. But then when it comes to in cooking the pie, you can do all kinds of win-win and all. Cooperation, competition, all kinds of things. But when it comes to cutting up the pie and taking your slice of the pie, you are competing.
Absolutely.
So that is the battle I am referring to, the battle for appropriating value. Okay. Now let me very quickly highlight, why blue ocean says what they are saying and why I am saying what I am saying. Go back to the first level at which I said, this book probably has some uniqueness, which is in terms of, this whole underpinning of equilibrium and steady state. What does blue ocean tell you? Blue ocean, essentially, there is an implicit assumption there. They don't make it explicit. There is an implicit assumption that once you discover a blue ocean, you are the whale in that ocean, and therefore nobody else can come and challenge you. That is equilibrium.
Yeah.
That is equilibrium. To me, that is equilibrium. Whereas what I am saying is, no matter where you compete, no, you can find a blue ocean today. Good for you. How long do you think it is going to stay blue? When is it going to turn pink? When it is going to turn red? It will. Soon it will. So battle readiness is a dynamic construct which says that, look, whether you are an underdog, whether you are the dominant player, whether you are a startup, whether you are a mature established player, you always need to be alert. Who is nibbling on my profit? Who is nibbling on profits that I should be taking home? Where is new profit coming up in this industry? Who is bringing it? Am I having my fingers in that? Am I able to take it? That is the whole point. So I think the fundamental difference between blue ocean strategy and this battle readiness as the way of thinking about how to compete is that here we are saying in battle readiness, we are saying the whole thing is dynamic. Now the dynamics may play out, like say, for example, take sugar industry. Dynamics may play out over 40, 50 years. Take sugar industry, cement industry, many industries, it plays out over 40, 50 years. Now take any of the new age born digital, native digital businesses, it plays out in a few years. That's all. So it's about dynamics. It's about the emphasis here is about Nothing is permanent. You are the dominant player. You are the Goliath in the marketplace. Sorry, your place is not preordained. You acquired it because of certain good things that you did in the past. You need to continue to earn it. Blue ocean does not emphasize that dynamics. That is the big difference. So if you bring the dynamics into blue ocean, you will see that framework also in a very different way. So then blue ocean, the moment you bring dynamics, will turn into how do I keep on discovering bluer oceans? That is battle readiness. You are in a blue ocean, but you are seeing that. So you are battle ready for today. You are good. Am I going to stay battle ready? No, probably it will turn pink in a few years. It will turn red in a few more years. So have I started the work of discovering the next blue ocean while I am still enjoying the current blue ocean?
Absolutely.
That is a sort of add-on, or that is a kind of additional perspective that battle readiness brings. So it's not in conflict. It's actually sort of taking it one step further.
Yeah, and from what I can hear from what is just previously said, and in fact about your showing it, I mean, you individually marking the points, and there's a software tool that you mentioned that in fact is matching with what is there in this book also. It has a strategy canvas and it identifies what are the points, and you keep doing it. I mean, there I think both you and this book, both of them are matching, and there I think there's a lot of value, and I see synergy there. Although the title might be extremely opposite, but internally, if you dig a little deeper, there are certain common things there.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. It was a very, very thought-provoking question, I should say, Arun. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Arun. We'll take a last question. Mr. Sai has a session again at 12:30. We wouldn't want to keep him getting late to that. So Rahul has a question. Rahul?
Yeah, hi. I'll ask my question. Thank you so much, Priyanka, for giving me the opportunity to ask the last question. So, Dr. Sai, this question is for you. And you did touch upon this idea that battle readiness is not about consultants coming in and giving you an 8-week mantra. But, often when we are working in corporates, it's about Q1 से Q2 तक, कयामत से कयामत तक. Q1 में क्या किया, Q2 में क्या किया, कितना revenue ऊपर गया, कितना sales नीचे गया. That's all the whole company is thinking about. That's all the CEO is thinking about. So amidst this mindset where your entire focus, and you took that beautiful example of Airtel versus Reliance, when all your energy is going into this Q1 se Q2 tak, somebody outside is coming and toppling your entire quarters. So what do you have to say about that? Is it like very short-sightedness which most CEOs, or is it because of the pressure of the shareholders? Why that short-term view? Why nobody takes that strategic view that is the very core of your book?
See, I think probably this is not true of the millennial generation, but people of my generation, and maybe few people a few years younger and things like that, many people smoke. They are all well educated. They know the hazards of smoking. They know it can lead to this, that, so many things, but still many of them continue to do that. Why? Because somehow we always discount what is possible, what is likely to happen in the future. See, if something is probable in the future, it's not as urgent as what is going to hit me on the head right now. And I think every manager knows that they need to. I don't think anybody it's not an issue of not being aware or whatever. It is just that we typically more often we discount the importance of acting on it right now. We say, okay, I can actually do it next month, when I'm off the quarter pressure, when I've done the analyst call, that is when I will call my CXOs, and that is when I will talk about this. But then I will be fighting some other fire. In fact, this is one question I ask as a consultant when I go into strategy assignments. I ask the CXOs to give me a very simple input. What percentage of your time in a week, and I give them a table Monday to Saturday or Sunday to Thursday, depending on the region. Fill up. I give 4 buckets, and I ask them to fill up what percentage of time you spend in these buckets. A couple of them are firefighting. One of them is about this year medium term, and one is about long term. I find 80% of the time, 90% of the time, people spend in firefighting, immediate term. Why are they doing it? Because they are allowing they did not get battle ready yesterday, and therefore they are doing it today. So at some point in time, we need to have that courage to say no. For me, this quarter is important, but that doesn't mean I won't ignore the future. That's a tough call. And there is no simple answer or a single answer to how somebody can do it. It depends a lot on the mindset of the people involved. It depends a lot on the organization. It depends on whether it's a listed company, unlisted company, who's the owner, what are their priorities, so many things. So I don't think there is a simple answer to that. But yes, this problem well understood, but not at all addressed. And I think you picked up something that's extremely important, which comes in the way of companies, businesses getting battle ready. And if they can cross this hurdle of at least figuring out some time to spend on thinking about the future. So they will say, okay, let's do an offsite. So all of them will pack, go to some holiday location, hide their phones, and then 2 days they will chat. And then as soon as they are in the cab back to the airport, the phones will start beeping, and then, they will get lost in the today. So
exactly,
some people have tried, let me put somebody, chief digital transformation officer, chief disruption officer. Again, it will fail. More likely because this is the job of the CEO. The CEO's job. He has to drive it. The head of the business has to drive this change. You can't delegate it to somebody without any authority to do whatever he or she wants. That doesn't work. So they have to figure out. And they have to. And see, management is a discipline where practice leads theory. Very much like chemistry. We have been using oxygen. We have been extracting oxygen way before we knew the atomic structure of oxygen. Unlike physics, where theory is way ahead of practice, here in management it's the reverse. So managers do great things, they innovate, and then people like me come, and then we look for patterns and we theorize, and then we write articles and stuff like that. So I'm a total believer of managerial ingenuity and innovation, and that's what keeps us going, right? So this is something that people figure out. Some people have figured out, and you can see some fantastic turnarounds. If you just go and look at how they achieved it, you will find elements of how they sort of cross this hurdle of not being able to spend enough time to get battle ready. Sometimes there will be an existential crisis, like if you don't do, you are dead, then you will do. But not good to wait till that moment.
Yeah, it's like it's like important but not urgent, but most people will wait for it to become urgent, and that's too late already.
Correct. What G is going through today, after all these years, they had to go and hire. I mean, Larry Culp is a great CEO, so they have appointed Larry Culp only because Larry Culp knows how to run a business profitably. That's a fantastic skill. So you do it too late also is a big issue.
Thank you so much, sir, for answering.
Thank you, Rahul. Thank you so much.
I guess with this, we'll conclude the session for today. I would like to thank Mr. Sai and Mr. Partha for taking out time from their busy schedules and giving us such an interesting session, with details about the book that probably people wouldn't have known otherwise. Thank you so much, both of you. And
Priyanka, one last comment from me, Madhusudan here. So, firstly, congratulations and kudos to our authors for, actually putting pen to paper. This is very, very hard. I find it difficult to read, and I know what kind of effort it must have taken to write it. Sure. So I obviously bought Partha's book because he messaged me and I know him well. So the shout out is for Sai, saying that he should be engaging with our Chennai chapter. I haven't seen him any of our alumni meetings. It's a captive audience to buy your book. It's a captive audience to buy your book. Okay. And I've also ordered your book, but it's taking a week to deliver.
Fulfillment is. See, first time author, I think they are printing on demand. So they don't know how many copies, whether it will sell 10 copies or 100 copies. I think they are printing on demand. Sooner or later you should get it. Otherwise, let me know. And definitely I'll connect with you, and we'll catch up in the Chennai chapter. I'm in Chennai for the past 5 years, so it will be fantastic for me.
Sai Madhu heads the Chennai chapter Alumni Association.
I've seen his name in emails and things like that, especially mails relating to Chennai chapter get-togethers and things like that.
That's right. That's right.
I've seen.
That's right.
I'll connect.
Sure.
Thank you so much, Madhu.
Thank you so much, Madhu. Thank you so much. And thank you, our audiences, for taking out time on a Saturday morning. You people have been great and such good questions and interesting things to ask. Thank you all, and special thanks to both our authors, Mr. Partha and Mr. Sai. Thank you so much. We're looking forward to our second book already.
Yeah, it's. I think we should be thanking them for taking time out to sort of listen to us. So thank you so much, and let's see how things pan out. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Sai, looking forward to your second book, and Partha to your
and
third
thanks
book.
to Priyanka for orchestrating the whole thing in a fantastic way. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Pleasure was all mine.
Thanks, Priyanka. Thanks for this.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Have a good day.
Have a great weekend. Bye.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.